SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, on location at the Neshoba County Fair. It's Mississippi's giant house party. It's back and bigger than ever. We'll be guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this Friday Eve. We kick things off on day 2 of our broadcast from Mississippi's giant house party with DeKeither Stamps. He's the Public Service Commissioner for the Central District of the state of Mississippi. Mr. Commissioner, thanks for coming in, sir.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity to be here.
You bet. So I caught your speech this morning on the stage over there in the pavilion. I believe you kicked things off, right?
Well, Scott Bounds,
of course, the president. Right. You're right. Thank you. So, but I caught some of it in a significant focus on economic development here in the state of Mississippi.
Yes, sir. When we ran to the state level the first time, we set a goal of doing $100 billion of economic development, and we're at about $85 billion now. But we got to raise our brow a little bit, so we can be more competitive in the region.
Absolutely. So, explain to us how the Public Service Commission can play a role in growing the economy of the state of Mississippi.
Well, the biggest difference between a cornfield and an industrial park is utilities. Okay. Once you lay down the sewer, the water, and all the utilities, the highway commissioner comes in with the highway. Now you have industry, potential, and we must do more of that. And then also we must upgrade our utilities in our towns so we can turn our towns into cities. Okay. Real vibrant cities with the infrastructure necessary so the state can grow.
Well, I know you talked about population and the need to increase our population here, and you know that's a problem in the state of Mississippi. And the other thing is you know, Mr. Commissioner, our population is aging somewhat. And as we age, we enjoy our retirement, so we don't really work. We need young people in our workforce.
That's right. We need young folks to choose Mississippi, so we must be the style of leadership that attracts our grandchildren to want to stay here. Yeah. And to build their lives here, just like we've enjoyed building our lives here.
So you were sharing with me before we went on the air that, of course, there are 3 commissioners for the benefit of our audience tuning in. You are responsible for the Central District. That aligns, actually, with our Supreme Court districts. We have a Northern Commissioner, a Southern Commissioner, same for transportation. You guys work together and are responsible for approving rate increases, as an example, is one of your chief responsibilities. You were telling me about a meeting you guys just recently had, and it concerned Entergy, I believe, right?
Well, every year,
it's part of it.
Right, Entergy Mississippi files their formula rate plan for the year. And this year,
do all of them have to do that, Mr. Commissioner? Okay, just want to make sure. Okay,
and that's where we set the rates for the next year. Yeah. And this year, Entergy Mississippi did not have a rate increase. Actually, it was a slight decrease because of the volume and the amount of
economies of scale.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. So, as you know, you've heard it, I've heard it, we've all heard it. Lots of folks are concerned about the investments in data centers, the various construction projects, 7 to be exact, across our state, that are touching the various electricity providers. And folks are concerned about that possibly driving rates up for just the average residential customer. Now, we've talked to CEO of Entergy, Haley Fassackler, many times, and he's explained how that's actually not the case. What's your perspective on that?
Well, anything that's ineffectively governed, and sure enough, data centers across the country and the world, you see examples of ineffective governance.
Yeah.
But Mississippi is learning from those things and putting mitigating factors in place to stop bad governance and to have stable governance for our utilities.
Poor planning is the way I describe it. And I feel like, well, I don't feel like I know it. We're ahead of this deal. We didn't put shovels in the ground and start building data centers until we were assured that the electricity providers could accommodate it in such a way, this additional load, in such a way that would not affect the average ratepayer.
Correct. But we've been living off of aging infrastructure for a long time. These things were put in place after the greatest generation came back from the war, and these growth potentials are giving us the economy we need to invest, because without this growth, the citizens will be paying for nuclear that we're trying to venture into, expanding, and the upgrade of the entire grid. The citizens by themselves will be financing it. And they should. Yeah. Because citizens are using this, and you must pay your fair share, but we want to make sure that every large load customer, not just data centers, pay their fair share plus additional benefit for citizens.
Well, there's concerns, as you know, and you and I have talked about it before, and we talked to your colleague Chris Brown about it last week, that there was a private contract that was executed between Entergy and Amazon Web Services, their investments, of course, in Madison County, Hinds County now, also Warren County, and concerns that they cut a special deal with them, a huge discounted rate structure in order to pay for all of the infrastructure they're going to have to invest in to accommodate that. They're going to have to pass those costs on to the average ratepayer. Your position on that? And I know you can't discuss the details of the contract. It's a private contract.
Well, what I'll say is this. I'm always going to push for more abilities at the Public Service Commission to regulate.
Yeah.
But we're doing everything we can to make sure that folks have the correct rate and no one is shifting a cost on anyone else.
Okay. Well, I mean, and I know you've made that statement numerous times before, but just wanted to give the folks out there tuned in some confidence that they're not going to be hit with some big increase in their electricity bills simply because Amazon Web Services has started operations.
Well, what I see today is we have a declining amount of public trust, and that's leading to our inability to make good decisions and move forward.
Okay.
The more we work together and be less divisive and political and be more, better governance and be more prudent, then we can start to build more public trust.
And I heard you talk about that in your speech today, and I think there's a lot of wisdom and truth in that. Folks just in general don't trust government. They always get concerned, rightfully so, when they're so-called backroom deals, I think as this contract between Entergy and Amazon Web Services has been described. But I just don't see Entergy showing up at the Public Service Commission saying, I'm sorry, guys, we miscalculated. You're going to have to allow us to raise rates on the average person out there, the homeowners and businesses and so forth, to pay for this investment to provide enough electricity to Amazon. I don't see you guys doing that.
Well, what we got to do is we got to stabilize our backbone economies like agriculture and small business, but we also must conquer the frontier.
Yeah.
The frontier of the world is more digital, and we must be more aggressive and participatory so that we can do just like Crystal Springs, Mississippi did. They picked the whole town up and moved it because the railroad was coming through.
Yeah.
Many of the people had never ridden on a train, never seen a train before, but they had a higher degree of public trust.
Yeah.
And they moved the town to the railroad and later became Tomatoopolis because they were able to grow tomatoes and ship them around the world. That's where we are today. We must stabilize our backbone economies and conquer the new frontier.
I understand. To what extent, Commissioner DeKeither Stamps, do you guys visit with, talk, just gain information, perspectives from your peers in other states to understand what's going on? Because a lot of this, of course, is more than just confined to the state of Mississippi or even your specific district.
Actually, I'm headed to Flint, Michigan today.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
And so to work on issues because they've had water issues before. We've got some folks lessons learned on their end and lessons learned on our end of how to collaborate. We have several conferences. We just hosted the Southeastern Utility Regulators Conference on the coast, and we had the entire Southeastern region focus on our issues as a region, because we all want more nuclear, and it's going to take Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia working together so that we can build those economies forward.
Well, I know that you and the other commissioners have indicated that you do support the use of nuclear energy,
most definitely.
Right, to drive electricity.
We've acquired 200 megawatts of more nuclear in the last 3 years. From when Grand Gulf was put in place, there was a shared agreement between Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi.
Yeah.
And it's going to take that same type of relationship to build more nuclear capacity in our state.
Yeah. Well, and I believe that the lead time for construction and just the duration has decreased somewhat, so maybe we'll see some shovels in the ground on some new nuclear energy, right?
Well, we have to get more users on the system, from population to more industry, because they can't put that $30 billion on the backs of ratepayers.
Payback's too long.
We got to stabilize it.
Yeah, I get it. It's been a joy talking to Public Service Commissioner DeKeither Stamps. Appreciate you coming on, and safe travels, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. We're coming right back, folks. The Element Well Studio relocated today once again to Founder Square, Mississippi's giant house party, the Neshoba County Fair. When we come back, it's Supreme Court Justice Kenny Griffiths. Stay with us.
Need cash for home?
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Chewing on a piece of grass, walking down the road.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays, where we've moved the Element Well Studio to Founder Square. Just a few steps away from the pavilion here at Founder Square at the Neshoba County Fair, of course, Mississippi's giant house party. We're waiting to get to Supreme Court Justice Kenny Griffiths over to the set. He just got through speaking, so he should be here momentarily. Need to pass this on. Micron, all the investment community was really kind of holding their breath on Micron's earnings report yesterday. But, man, they absolutely blew it out. Came in with a revenue of $41.46 billion versus $35 billion estimated. The same quarter last year, they did $9 billion, which is just absolutely amazing. Actually, I take it back. It increased $9 billion from last year. So significant increase. But this is the data point that just absolutely blows me away, and that is that on their revenue of $41 billion, they made $28. They produced $28 billion of net income. $28 billion. That means their cost of goods and their expenses were $13 billion, and their net income was $28 billion. That's just mind-boggling when you think about it. So what it indicates, of course, is that there is a strong demand for the chips, the memory that Micron produces. That's all part of the AI play. So it's still alive and well. However, the Apple stock is down today, and that's because of the demand for chips. Apple says, you know what, we're going to have to raise prices on certain products. I think the MacBook, if I'm not mistaken, they announced a price increase today as a result of the increased price of memory. So Micron benefits, and Apple gets beat up a little bit from a stock perspective simply because they announced they're going to have to raise prices, and the concern is, okay, well, this is going to affect their sales. So right now, Apple's down $16. That is about 6%. Micron currently is trading up. This is mind-boggling. $132 a share today. Now, that puts it at about $1,180 per share. So, just a little bit of economic news for you. Inflation, on the other hand, it's still sticky. We got the CPE report this morning, and it came in still hotter than comfort for the Fed. And so I think that investors are looking at that and feeling like we're probably not going to get a rate cut. They'd like to see a rate cut. And but when the CPE I should say the PCE, personal consumption expenses, not to be confused with the CPI. It kind of measures inflation differently. Both of those metrics do. But nonetheless, it came in a little hotter than expected. So that's got folks somewhat concerned, and so you got some sell-off in some areas of the market. The other big news of the morning is that the Supreme Court delivered really two huge wins concerning immigration for President Trump. Two major immigration victories this morning. They sided with the administration, 6-3 ruling, in a 6-3 ruling. They upheld the federal government's authority to turn away asylum seekers at ports of entry using a policy known as metering. So this kind of rejects and flies in the face of arguments that federal law requires the officials that work for the federal government that handle immigration and the flow of immigrants across our border to provide asylum to everybody that seeks it. You know, Rhino, you and I have talked about this numerous times. These people come over and say, yeah, well, they're going to come after me. The government doesn't like me. They're after me. Okay, come on in. Literally, that's how it works. I mean, I'm exaggerating a tad, but not that much. Certainly under the Biden administration, they didn't even pay attention to. Well, do these people legitimately need asylum? And then, of course, they end up here permanently. We don't send them back when their country stabilizes or when they're no longer a target of their own government. It's ridiculous. So that is, I think, positive on the immigration front. And then the other ruling, the second ruling, another 6-3 decision that the Trump administration can move forward with ending temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants and Syrians. 350,000 Haitian immigrants, 6,000 Syrians living in the United States. And so the court said, yeah, you can actually end temporary immigration status, which has been in place for a long time. And remember, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, we talked about it quite a bit, implemented reforms to various welfare programs, more specifically the food stamp SNAP program and the Medicaid program. They've never been available to illegals, but documented immigrants, and there are different reasons why a person could receive documented legal status coming from another country. But what the law said is, you know what, you're not eligible for these programs anymore, except with the exception of Haitian and Cuban immigrants that are here under legal status for documentation purposes. And so the One Big Beautiful Bill Act excluded them, and that goes back to laws passed back in the 80s with the boat people. I know we've mentioned that many times before, but for those of you that haven't heard us. But this kind of turns that on its head because it looks like that Haitian immigrants can be removed from this country. Now, as you can imagine, these decisions were split along ideological lines. I believe Justice Alito is the one that wrote the opinion for, I know, at least one of them, maybe both of them. But this is big news coming out of the Supreme Court. That was one category of cases. The birthright citizenship case, no decision on that yet. Again, that's another one where the Trump administration contends that that's unconstitutional. That's illegal. That just because a person is born on American soil, that does not mean they should be automatically granted legal citizenship status immediately upon birth. They may be born to an illegal, honestly, that comes across the border. So-called anchor babies, as you hear the term quite a bit. So that case is still outstanding. The other case outstanding as well, we're kind of waiting to see, that affects Mississippi, is cases that were brought to the Supreme Court concerning laws that ban gender change surgery, it's really sex change surgery, on minors, and also laws that ban biological males from participating in female sporting events, sporting competition. Both of those practices have been banned here in the state of Mississippi, so that is a big case. So not really sure what's going to happen there. Still waiting on the decision there. Yeah. So that's a high-profile case, the birthright citizenship. And then the other one that affects the state of Mississippi is the RNC versus Michael Watson. Now, again, I got to point out, Michael Watson happens to be the Secretary of State. Thus, he is named as the defendant in this suit. And the RNC contends that ballots received after Election Day should not be considered in political contest in this country. In Mississippi, it's 5 days. I'm not exactly sure why the RNC picked Mississippi to kind of represent their overall position that no states should allow that. In Mississippi, it's 5 days. Other states have different time periods after Election Day. Some, like California, I don't know how the heck they figure out when it's over, because they basically said, have they not, Rhino? We just keep counting until we think that there's no way that or that a winner could be declared, and no way that could be changed by receiving remaining ballots. I don't think they've called the races they had 3 weeks ago officially yet.
Yeah, they're still counting.
That's just crazy. So we'll see what happens there, but that is another big case that could affect the state of Mississippi and will affect the entire country, honestly. The high-profile cases. So tis the season, if you will, for the Supreme Court to hand down decisions, and that's what we got. Speaking of which, I'm not sure if you guys were aware that in New York on Tuesday, all these celebrations of these Democratic Socialist candidates winning various congressional races in the state of New York, Mondami-endorsed candidates, they were holding rallies, victory parties. They weren't chanting, as Rhino plays the soccer-related music there. They weren't chanting USA. They were chanting DSA, Democrat Socialists of America. We're taking a break right now, coming right back with Supreme Court Justice Jennifer Branning. Stay with us.
From the Seabrook.com.
Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
And the crowd that sees. 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 And the crowd that sees.
All right, what's on tap today in the soccer world, Rhino?
Well, the big match that I'm watching starts at 9 o'clock tonight. It's going to be USA versus Turkey, or the country formerly known as Turkey. Now it's Turkey, whatever. They're kicking off at 9 o'clock tonight, and the match, while it doesn't really have much significance for the tournament moving forward for the U.S. is moving on no matter what. Turkey's headed home no matter what. Because of that, you're probably going to see some turnover on the team. You're going to see some new faces on the team. The defense in the midfield is going to be a little, I don't want to say weaker. It's just not going to be at full strength because you've got some players with a yellow card. They don't want to have to sit the knockout round match, so they're going to sit this match. Because of that, you could see a little sloppier play, a little less chemistry on the team, but Turkey's dejected. Turkey's getting grouped. They got grouped after 2 matches. So you really have one of two choices for Turkey. Turkey's either going to come out and play a bunch of players that never would have got a chance, so it's going to be a pretty even match. The U.S. could win that pretty easily. Or Turkey's going to play their A squad, and that's going to be the A squad up against some of the backups for the U.S., and it could be a little wonky. But I'm expecting a high-scoring match. I'm expecting the defenses to be a little porous, it to be a little open.
Yeah.
I'm just excited for the first time in my lifetime to be able to watch U.S. soccer play in a World Cup match and not be nervous about it.
That's pretty cool.
Not have any anxiety over the result, because no matter what, we're moving on, and I can't wait.
We're ready. Yeah. All right, we got Speaker of the House, Jason White. He's getting him a water. He's going to come right. He just came fresh from the stage delivering his remarks. Did want to pass on the personal consumption expenditure reading was 3.4% annual rising of the rate. So that's the Fed's primary inflation gauge, and that's the highest since April 2023. So we're going in the wrong direction on inflation. That will be certainly a big matter in the upcoming midterm races. We're going to be all over it. So, all right, right now we're pleased to welcome to the set here at Founders Square, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the great state of Mississippi, Speaker Jason White. Mr. Speaker, I know we rushed you. You just got through speaking on the stage there in the pavilion. Sorry for the rush hour, but we want to get you on.
No, all good. Good to be with you.
Yes,
great day.
It is. It is a good day. Looks like the rain's going to hold off, and we're able to kind of navigate right and negotiate the mud.
That's right.
And we appreciate that.
I think the crowd improved a little bit with the rain holding off
I agree.
yesterday.
And, of course, we got the house band at 1:30.
Well, that's why they're all here.
Exactly.
I thought it was me, but it's the house band.
Oh, man, we're
looking forward to that.
Yeah, we are, too. So, all right, what's the gist of your message today?
Mississippi is on the rise. We have so much good stuff to talk about and build, and not just talk about, but build on. And I'm afraid too many times, and especially looks like as we go into election year next year, everybody to get elected is going to tell you, if you don't elect them, this thing's gone to hell. And that's just not the case. Now, elections are extremely important, and we got to get all that right.
Yeah.
I'm the first one. Everybody's got to get their message out. I get that.
Yeah.
But I want to dwell on some positives,
sure.
And I think they're worthy of not only discussion, but using those as the next building block. Like, we've looked hard at this. We have a young lady who believes this is the information desk. What is your question, darling?
Do you know where the fans that go round?
I think she's hot. She wants to go play in the fan.
We're going to find her a fan.
Or talk in the fan, one or the other. That's great. Good job, Mr. Speaker.
It's a great American fair, right?
Exactly.
Right. Ronald Reagan said there's nothing like this anywhere. He's never seen anything like this in the world because there's nothing like this in the world, right?
Right. Indescribable.
Indescribable.
All right, so, and so you were talking about the positives that have occurred here.
We need to talk about that. Now, there are things we can do to build on those. We hadn't certainly ran from or hidden the fact that we think with all our education gains, the record investment we put into public education, we think it's time to flip that coin over and let's talk about from the side of the parents and not from the side of the school systems. And so we're going to keep pounding that drum. We think that's the next best step for our people that they're demanding, Gerard.
Yeah.
And that is some say in how their kids are educated. And that includes voting with their feet and being able to go to some other school if what's the one they're assigned to is not meeting their needs. That is not a radical idea. And it's time we normalize that conversation. And instead of saying no, let's figure out a path forward. This isn't about hurting anybody. It's about doing what's best for our families.
Yeah.
And you and I have had lengthy conversations about it.
We're
going to keep talking about that.
Okay.
We're going to keep talking about ways we can lessen the tax burden.
Okay.
And for us, that has turned our attention away now from income tax and at property taxes.
Yeah.
People feel like, and with this being a reassessment year the last couple of years and that 10-year hitting appreciation, inflation, there's an interval there, and folks have really backed up, especially as Florida and a few other states are looking at property taxes. The tax bill went up. I would tell them it means their property values have increased as well, but there is an inflation.
But you don't get any cash for that,
you don't get any cash for that. No. So this is about how can we offer that next step in tax relief. So we put some of our best and brightest on that. And then if that's not enough tricky politics, we're going to look at redistricting through and through, legislative, judicial, and congressional. And that will consume a large portion of our time and attention over the next months and even into there.
So you've got 6 committees that you established, that you commissioned in this intercession period. And they've had several meetings, and you appointed committee members, co-chairpersons of each of those. One of those, of course, a very high-profile topic, and that's school district or school consolidation. How's that going?
It is going well. The committee chairmen have informed me that they've actually had a few school districts and schools come forward and say, we not only want to be part of this discussion, we want consolidation.
Okay.
That sort of thing. Now, that's just a couple. I'm not telling you they got run over. But at least the conversation is there.
Yeah.
We know we have too many, and we need to do better there. So we're looking at that very close. And you know, I've told some people this about our House of Representatives. Now, I had it in my speech today, but I took it out. My wife just didn't like the phrase. And my mother taught English for 35 years. But they know this, and I'll say it to your listeners. Mississippi House of Representatives, they ain't scared. They're not scared. My colleagues and I have survived the onslaught of Initiative 42 that we were going to be run out of office, maybe run out of state.
Yeah.
And after that, we just kind of scabbed over, and the armor kind of got a little thicker, and they're willing to go to some sacred places and look at some things and that usually politicians are hands off. I think that's why we've at least stopped digging the hole with our PERS retirement system, because they were willing to have some difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to do that in all areas.
Still got some work to do there, as you know.
We do. And it's a math problem.
It's totally a math problem.
At this point, it's just where's the money coming from?
That's exactly right.
That's what we got to get to.
So the property tax issue, there's kind of a revolt going on across the country. You mentioned Florida. There's about 10 states that are looking at significant property tax reform. We being one of them. There are all kinds of proposals and ideas, from once you hit 65, no more property taxes, a veteran, once your house is owned, no more property. You've seen all the various proposals. But as you know, Mr. Speaker, this is a chief source of revenue for our counties, for our school districts, for our cities.
That's right. And that's part of this conversation. I spoke on the Gulf Coast last week. Mississippi Supervisors Association was having their convention. All of their questions after I spoke, I took. I'm still naive enough to take questions from the entire
well, that's appreciated.
room, but maybe out of naivety, but we do it and try to get there. But that was their number one concern, is because many years ago when the legislature, we got the homestead credits and homestead exemptions.
Yeah.
There have been years where the legislature didn't fully refund counties for that legislatively created credit.
That was in the law.
Well, it is.
Okay.
But number one, we've earned a little, street cred with them because we have fully funded it, not only in my time in the Speaker's office, but over about the last 10 years. So it hadn't been short there. Now, we've had the money to do it, too.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be a real assurance there, because that is how they build their budgets. That is how we pay for local government. And just like the PERS discussion, the money has to come from somewhere.
It's got to come from somewhere.
And so while you can point to another state and say, hey, their property taxes are less, and I was like, yeah, but this is more. Like, it takes what it takes. Now, Florida has lots of out-of-staters that own homes in Florida that they think they're going to be able to shift some of that burden to those.
Their second home doesn't qualify for these reforms.
They may shift a little of that burden over more onto out-of-staters. We don't have that same. That's not part of our equation. You might say.
Don't have a lot of second homes.
We're dealing with home folks. We don't have a lot of second homes.
Well,
so we're going.
Okay. No, look, we got to have the conversation.
We got to have the conversation because people are asking.
Yeah,
they're asking about it.
Yeah,
so we're going to have it and see what that looks like. Our tax assessors and collectors are a little bit nervous, and our boards of supervisors are too. And I get it. I'm with them. I
understand. Speaker of the House Jason White has been our guest here from Founder Square. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Gerard. I appreciate it very much.
We're taking a break right now. We're coming right back with Jim Schellenbach. He's the CEO and founder of AMP Liquids. So stay with us.
We interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge news. Huge news. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from Founder Square at the Neshoba County Fair. Right now, Governor Tate Reeves is at the podium underneath the pavilion addressing the crowd seated about. But it's our turn to talk to Jim Schellenbach. He's the CEO and founder of AMP Liquids. Hey, Jim, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Gerard, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
We got you, man. I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate you joining us today. You are the CEO and founder of AMP Liquids. Tell us about these products.
Well, it's a family recipe. My father was a row crop farmer from North Carolina, and he developed a product which later became a nanotechnology. And my grandfather passed away, and I got the family formula, and I've been making a full line of liquid fertilizers with this new technology that's out.
And so how are they distinguished, Jim, from traditional fertilizers?
Well, traditional fertilizers, especially liquid fertilizers, you have to really get a surfactant to get them to stick to the plant, to hold it there long enough for the plant to absorb it. So if you put out, say, a nitrogen that's like maybe a 20 OO, only about 3 or 4% of that is actually getting in the leaf of the plant. The rest of it's going to lay on the ground and get absorbed by the root system. So with our technology, the liquids actually penetrate the leaf of the plant with a negatively charged nanocarbon particle. And it's all carbon-based, it's all safe and all natural, but it just makes all the difference when you're trying to get the plant leaf to absorb nitrogen or phosphorus or potassium or iron or just about anything.
Interesting. So are you penetrating the market here in Mississippi with these products?
We do. We have a dealer there in Carthage, Southern Farm and Ag, and they've done a really good job. They're in their first year of carrying our new products, and the response has been very positive so far. Farmers are able to get a lot more done with a liquid spray versus just taking a dump truck full of granular out there. Sure. When you can get more units of nitrogen and phosphorus in the plant and potassium in the plant leaf, you don't need as much granular fertilizer. You can get a lot more done with a liquid.
And Southern Farm and Ag, by the way, equipment, they are one of our sponsors here for our broadcast at Neshoba County Fair. So what kind of feedback do you get from the farmers when they use your products?
Well, we're able to get granular nitrogen. A lot of guys are putting out 200 to 250 pounds. Well, this year it was really hard with the war and the fertilizer prices. It was, I think, $900 a ton there for nitrogen for a little while. So
wow, yeah,
we had a lot of guys substitute with granular. They cut that in half. And they switched over to our liquids. And, if you don't mind spraying a little bit, you got to dust off the sprayer and get the sprayer out there. But if you don't mind spraying, you can cut back on a lot of that granular, and you can really get, because you can get a lot more of this liquid in the plant and supplement for that granular fertilizer.
I see.
Usually it's enough to pay for our products.
I see. Well, I'm not sure if it's the same, but it kind of sounds like the difference between, say, taking an antibiotic, a human, orally, in pill or capsule form versus intravenously.
Exactly. And nanotechnology is making its way into antibiotics, and it's making its way into pain medication in the form of a liquid capsule because of the delivery of that is so much better. And just like our fertilizers, we've synthesized these liquids at our manufacturing plant. So when they get out to the farmer, the liquid that's being sprayed on the plant is very similar to the liquid that's already inside the leaf. So when you synthesize, and yes, sir, and so those liquids want to be together. And so that plant is just readily absorbs our fertilizer so much better. In fact, they're rain fast in under 10 minutes, and you can almost walk behind the tractor and watch the leaves dry. It dries, the plants just suck it right up. So,
So is this more environmentally advantageous as well, Jim, than traditional fertilizers?
Well, sure, especially in Mississippi because of all the groundwater there. You really want to get this stuff in the leaf. You don't really want it, for example, nitrogen will gas off in the atmosphere at night, and also herbicides will gas off too, and they'll drift around. And so this our main technology, our adjuvant Genesis, is a DRA-approved product. So it goes in the plant, it stays in the plant. Your money's in the plant. You're not wasting money with drift and this sort of thing. So, that's very important. Yeah, pinpoint accuracy. It's like hunting deer with a scope rifle instead of hunting it with a shotgun.
I got you.
Makes sense. Much more precision. Yes, sir.
All right. So once again, it's Southern Farm Ag and Equipment that serves as your dealer in Carthage, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right.
Good people over there, and they got a full line of products from nitrogen to potassium to your ground apps. So
sounds good.
Take them. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming on, Jim. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. Take care. Bye bye.
We're coming right back after Fox News and Super Talk News with Justices Jennifer Branning and Kenny Griffiths. Stay with us.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. We are live, day 2, at the Neshoba County Fair. We are, of course, once again at Founders Square on this
Friday Eve.
It's our pleasure to welcome now to the Element Wealth temporary set here 2 members of Mississippi's Supreme Court, Justices Jennifer Branning and Kenny Griffiths. Glad we could get you guys together to come on over and have a little chat.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
You bet. So, both of you spoke earlier today, right?
We did.
Yeah. What's the message today, Jennifer?
Well, I told Justice Griffiths that I objected to him going after me. He did such a phenomenal job here in my home county. So I basically wanted to get up and thank the people who allow me to serve on the Supreme Court. It's such an important role. Then I talked about the importance of the judiciary and how that plays an impact on the success of Mississippi, particularly if we act in a constitutionally conservative manner. We're following the Constitution. And if the legislature is kind to us and provides the resources that we need to do our job, then Mississippi thrives. And
Absolutely.
So that was the basics of what I talked about today.
Justice Griffiths, I can certainly attest that from a business perspective, you can't own and operate and run a business unless the rule of law is observed and enforced, and we rely on our law enforcement, our judicial systems to ensure just that.
Yeah, it's important what we do, Gerard, that we be consistent. When we talk about the rule of law, we are talking about consistency, consistent application. In our country, one of the big things is property rights and contract rights, and the fact that you can rely on courts that are going to honestly and properly enforce those rights is important to investment not only in our state, but in the counties and cities and the districts that we have, that people want to know what the risks are and where the risks are. And when you throw in a crazy court ruling that doesn't follow the law, you really throw in kind of an outlier there that messes up the consistency in the rule of law.
And just thinking, Justice Branning, from a business perspective, from an economic growth opportunity perspective, that if you've got a court system that becomes ideological as opposed to enforcing and ruling in accordance with the law, as an investor, and a business owner, you start thinking twice about going into wherever they have jurisdiction.
You do. It's very important that we have a stable legal environment. Otherwise, businesses will not invest in Mississippi, and that's what it's all about. And one other thing that I reminded the people, the reason that I ran for this position is the same reason that I served them for nearly a decade in the state Senate. That's to do my part to make Mississippi the best place it can be to live, work, and raise a family. A big part of that is stability in the legal climate.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I don't know. I talked to Justice Branning at her cabin right up the street here.
Yeah, I was able to feed you lunch yesterday.
Appreciate that.
Sure.
Appreciate your hospitality, which, of course, that is something that's a hallmark of the Neshoba County Fair.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Exemplifying what Mississippi's known for, which is good old Mississippi Southern hospitality. But, Justice Griffiths, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with rulings coming out of the U.S. Supreme Court. Some of those could affect the state of Mississippi here.
Oh, absolutely, and they've got several more that are going to be handed down the next week or two. They generally close out the term on June 30th. Sometimes they go a little bit past that, but we've got a Supreme Court that's clarifying a lot of things right now. There's some important cases before the Supreme Court. Birthright citizenship. I'm
still waiting on that one.
One of the biggest ones. It may come down as late as July 2nd.
Yeah.
And so, which is a little bit unusual. And so there are some decisions that affect everything we do, and what happens at the United States Supreme Court is important, just like what happens at our Supreme Court is important to the people of the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. And it's I like to say all the time, just from again relating it to my business background, it's faith, confidence, and certainty.
Right.
That's what drives investment and hiring and expansion. If you don't have faith, confidence, and certainty, just the same way you run your household, that you tend to just sort of hunker down and put those big decisions off. But if you have confidence, and our legal systems are predictable, and they don't have some anti-business, anti-freedom, anti-liberty slant to them, things are a lot better.
Agreed.
I mean, it's pretty
That's why
simple.
we're doing what we're doing. That's right.
I get
and
it.
Gerard, what happens in our courthouses across the state is really important.
Okay.
That when you walk in that door, there needs to be fairness, there needs to be justice. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter who you are, but when you walk in that courtroom, we can decide disputes, and we can resolve disputes where people can go and actually get resolution that's predictable.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's been my experience, certainly, in the state of Mississippi. So I'm going to ask you a question, Justice Branning. You may say that you can't answer that, but that's fine, and sometimes I'm not sure exactly what the boundaries are.
Sure, that's okay.
The U.S. Supreme Court. There are many, certainly in the Democrat Party, that would like to expand the number of justices, even impose term limits. That could be done through legislation, I believe. That's not something that's embedded in our Constitution. Do you have any thoughts about that, or can you say?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think it's something that certainly should be approached with caution.
Okay.
How about that for a sidestep, Gerard?
How about you, Justice Griffiths? What do you think?
Well, we've been down 2 justices now for over 6 months.
Here in Mississippi?
Yeah. Mississippi.
Yeah.
We have 9. And I think 9's a good number. 9's a traditional number. One person's not able to dominate. You don't really have factions. We work together. We have to work together. And sometimes we change and we differ who we vote with. And I think 9 is a really good number. You can get too many.
Yeah.
You can get too few. Right now, we'd love to have 2 colleagues sharing the work with us, and hopefully we'll have somebody here soon.
Well, I think we have to be honest as well, and I'll just kind of close this topic out, that the reason the Democrats want to expand the court is because they want to, of course, use the court as a tool in the lawmaking process, the old lawmakers in robes concept, which I know you guys don't support. You support the objectivity of our legal systems, of our court systems.
Right.
So do clear-thinking Americans as well, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. The rule of law is really an interesting topic today. It depends on which side you're on. One side views the rule of law as to be what we want it to be and can change it as they want. Another side's looking at it from, we need firmness, we need consistency, we need to make sure there's fairness, and that we follow our Constitution.
Sure. So, Justice Branning, are there any cases that are before the Mississippi Supreme Court now that are just of interest that you can share with us?
I really wish we could share more about our work.
I wasn't sure what you could say,
But when we have things that are pending where the final mandate has not issued, really not in a position to do that. But I will tell you that when I ran for this position, I campaigned on the importance of the court and how every decision affects the lives of Mississippians. But it wasn't until I got there, and I'm here now doing the important work, I shudder at how important our work is. So let's just say every single decision that's on my desk, that's on the desk of Justice Griffiths, will affect each and every Mississippian. So we have 270 days to hand down our opinion from the time the last brief is filed.
Okay.
And as a practitioner, I used to think, wow, why does the Supreme Court take so long? We are being very deliberate about each and every decision.
Sure.
We are taking our time. We are doing the hard work, the heavy lifting, researching to make sure that we are, in fact, following the law, that we are not inserting our individual thought process into that. And so our work is very important. I wish I could tell you more about specific cases, but just keep a watch on our hand-down list.
I actually already knew that, thinking back on it now, but I apologize for that.
Fine.
So we got a couple of minutes left. Justice Griffiths, could you explain to us, how does a case make its way before the Supreme Court of Mississippi?
Well, really there are three ways, and two of them start with the trial court. And there are going to be decisions in circuit courts, chancery courts, and county courts in our state. And those, before a final judgment, those can be appealed through an interlocutory appeal or what we call a Rule 54B judgment by the court. But most cases come to us after the circuit or chancery court have issued their final appeal or their final judgment on all of the issues, on all of the claims. And then it comes to us, and we're a court of record, so we get to see what has been admitted at the trial court. We don't have witnesses. We don't have a lot of argument. Everything's on paper. And so a lot of what we do is we read and we write a lot.
Okay.
And that's why I appreciate, Justice Branning and I think will say the same thing. It's nice to have colleagues that you can run things by. You don't always have to agree. And sometimes you need to talk somebody into more sense, and I probably mean more than anybody, but it's good for 9 of us to sit down and be able to talk about cases, talk about what matters, and listen to somebody that has a different perspective on it to make sure that what we get out is going to be consistently applied by the bench and the bar and the public of our state.
So, Justice Branning, can the Mississippi Supreme Court decide not to take a case up the way the U.S. Supreme Court can?
We can decide that on cert cases from the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
And so when cases are appealed, they come to the Supreme Court first, and we decide whether the Court of Appeals will handle the appeal or whether we will retain it. But for the cases that come up to us where the Court of Appeals has already rendered a decision, we can at that point decide whether to do another appellate review
that makes sense.
Point. Yeah.
All right. Appreciate you guys coming on. Glad that worked out.
Thank you very much.
Having us.
We've been visiting with Mississippi Supreme Court Justices Jennifer Branning and Kenny Griffiths. We're taking a break right here from Founders Square. When we return, it's the governor of the great state of Mississippi, Tate Reeves. Stay with us.
When it comes to Okay, is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Appreciate it, Rhino. Great bumper music there. The great Lee Greenwood. Very appropriate given that this is the 250th birthday of the United States. We're waiting for the governor to make his way over to the Element Wealth Studio, which is set up today on Founders Square at the Neshoba County Fair. It's Mississippi's giant house party, back and bigger than ever. And, of course, SuperTalk Mississippi has been here the last couple of days live, both the morning show with Richard Cross and Middays with me. Our coverage of the Neshoba County Fair is brought to you by Build Mississippi. If you've got a student wondering what's next after high school, Build Mississippi can help show them the options. It's also brought to you by Southern Farm and Ag Equipment. They work as hard as you do in the provision of their equipment. It works as hard as the people running it, they say. I love it. Great slogan. So another Supreme Court case that was decided today concerns. We were just talking about crop protection products here on the program. We had Jim Schellenbach, CEO and founder of AMP Liquids. He was talking about their products, but the Supreme Court just rejected a lawsuit alleging that Roundup's weed killer caused cancer. So this is an interesting case, just another one that's come down here in the state of Mississippi. But it's our great pleasure to welcome now the governor of the great state of Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves. Governor, thanks for coming on, sir. Good to see you.
Hey, Gerard, how are you?
Doing great. So great day, as always, here at the Neshoba County Fair. I know that you just came fresh from the stage there, delivered some remarks to the crowd that's gathered up there under the pavilion. What's your message today, Governor?
Well, my message today is that we're going into a very important election cycle in Mississippi. We'll have races for governor and lieutenant governor and all 8 statewide elected officials next year, as well as up and down the ticket, state legislature, county elected officials as well. And my message is we have a choice to make, and those choices have consequences, and elections really do matter. And who we elect to represent us matters. And I think that's very important. It's just important to remind the voters of that.
Yeah. Mississippi is on the move. I believe you do a great job of promoting Mississippi's progress in so many areas, and perhaps something that I have to admit, Governor, I stole from you is when you said, this Mississippi miracle is really not a miracle, that it's just common sense conservative policy that has produced these vast improvements in education.
Well, Gerard, it's interesting. I spent the better part of one day last week in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And it was they wanted me to come up and talk about the successes that we had, but I think I learned more even than I was able to teach them, because what I learned was that Oklahoma's legislature passed a very similar piece of legislation to us when we passed it in 2012 and 2013, and unfortunately for them, sometime in 4 or 5 years later, they didn't include the accountability piece, and 4 or 5 years later, the politics got to them, and they caved, and they actually reduced a lot of the reforms that had been in place. And at that time, when we both passed similar legislation, they were number 40 in the country in 4th grade reading. We were 49. Today, we're number 9. They're number 47. So I'd say that to simply say, you have to do 3 things to make the Mississippi miracle become a topic of conversation. You've got to pass good, strong conservative legislation. You got to have a plan to implement it. And third, and perhaps most importantly, there has to be an accountability piece inside the statute, and inside those of us in government have to be held accountable to make sure that you don't cave to the political whims of some superintendent that is mad or some parent that is mad. You got to do what's right for all kids, and Oklahoma did not. They have since reversed courses, and literally the last few months they've gone and re-implemented some of those models, because they've seen what's happened in Mississippi, where we've gone from 49 to 9. They've seen it in Mississippi. They've gone from 40th to 47. And they know we got it right, and they didn't.
That's awesome.
And I'm getting requests from all over the country. I'll be traveling all over the country talking about it.
Well, it's put us on the national map in such a super positive way. I know you've talked to national media about it quite a bit as well.
We have, and Gerard, the reason it's so important is because it's great to talk about the good things happening in Mississippi, particularly when it surrounds education. But you also have to make that connection as to how does it matter to every working person across the state. We had the 2nd fastest growing economy in the entire country last year. Well, what does that mean to the average worker in Mississippi? Well, what it means is we had the 4th fastest growing per capita income in the country. We had the 2nd fastest growing family income in the country. So on average, people in Mississippi are putting more money in their pocket, which they can then spend on themselves and their families than anywhere else in the country. And that's what's exciting to me, because I have a political philosophy which goes something like this. We have a lot of challenges in Mississippi. But I believe that if everybody in our state has two things, number one, the skills that they need, and number two, the opportunity to get a job that pays $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, most all those other challenges tend to take care of themselves.
100%.
And it's really that simple.
It really is. I totally agree. So you have been a champion of economic development in the state of Mississippi, and I think you would agree it's great, as you indicated, to achieve these gains in education, but we don't benefit from them unless those children who are educated stay here in Mississippi and work in Mississippi and put their skills to work and serve society.
No doubt, and we're seeing over the last 5 years, we are actually seeing net increase in population. We made an announcement a month or so ago that U-Haul, which obviously is a pretty good indicator, a leading indicator of who's moving where. U-Haul trucks, where they're going matters, and we had the 18th most inflow in the entire country of U-Haul vehicles, people moving from other parts of the country to Mississippi. Why? Because there's opportunity here.
Yeah, they're coming here.
They're coming here. We had 20% more job openings over the last 5 years in Mississippi. We are creating opportunities for people to be successful. And I just want to point out, I see Bill Cork standing over here. I'm the guy that gets to do the ribbon cutting. Bill Cork and his team at MDA, they're doing all the work. And so I just want to make sure. I think he may have been on SuperTalk earlier this morning talking about that. But it takes a team effort. We got to have leadership. We got to understand. That's why the election next year is so important. As I said from the podium today, the next governor may think he or she knows better about how to do economic development than the economic development experts do. I got news for them. They don't.
Yeah.
Listen, do what's right, and make sure we are actually winning the jobs of the next 50 years.
And get government out of the way. And these businesses that are seeking to make investments here, they get that. They know we're not trying to get in their pocket. We're not trying to regulate them into oblivion. It matters.
I'm asked about our regulatory environment all the time. And my response goes something like this. I believe that in most states, the regulatory environment is the regulatory agencies start with no, and businesses have to try to convince them to get to yes. In Mississippi, we start at yes. Now, if you do things that force us to say no, we are more than willing to do it.
Yeah.
People know me well enough to know I don't mind telling my enemies or my friends no if that's what it calls for. But we start at yes, and if you do all the things that you're supposed to do and you meet all the federal and state requirements, then we're going to work every day to make sure you can get your project done. It's the reason that Mississippi is known for insane execution speed. That's a quote from Elon Musk, not from me. But that matters. Speed to market matters in the economic development world. And Bill Cork started this, and I use it all the time now. You know, stealing from people who know what they're talking about is not a bad thing. I steal it from him. But we in Mississippi believe that we can take companies from spending money to making money faster than anywhere else, and that means they want to come here. And that's the reason we've announced $85 billion in new projects in the last 5 years.
Well, it's awesome. And again, you've been hyper-focused on it, and it's what we should be focused on, because I agree with you. A lot of these other issues tend to go away when we're growing our economy and growing wages and just producing more in the state. We're taking a break right now, Governor. You're going to come back. We're going to keep talking. We got Governor Tate Reeves here at Founders Square at Mississippi's giant house party, the Neshoba County Fair.
From theSeabrook.com.
Properly set all controls before recording.
All systems go. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from Founders Square at the world-famous Neshoba County Fair. With us now for another segment is the governor of the great state of Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves. All right, Governor, tell the folks, how many speeches have you given here? How many years consecutively?
Today was number 24 in a row.
Are you the record holder?
No, I believe that the late, great Jim Buck Ross gave 28.
28
is what I have been told. And so he was a heck of a storyteller. So my guess is his 28 were a lot better than my 24. That'd be my guess.
Longtime agriculture commissioner for the great state of Mississippi, of course. So we were talking in the last segment about how just common sense conservative policy is driving Mississippi forward in a positive direction, honestly, on all fronts, in education, in economic development. And we should also point out, I believe we have more people working in the state of Mississippi, right, than ever before.
Well, and that's really what it's all about. I've said my entire career that we are not trying to create more taxes on the people who are already paying it, but we are trying to create more taxpayers.
Sure.
Because you want individuals growing, you want their incomes growing, and quite honestly, we want our businesses to be thriving as well. Mississippi is comprised of many, many small businesses. It's what drives our economy. The big businesses oftentimes get the front page headlines when they make big announcements because of the number of zeros, and we're proud of those too. But the fact is, I come from a small family-run business. My dad started in the early to mid-1970s, and I know and I fully appreciate that the vast majority of our employees, and we have more today than ever before, work at small businesses across small towns and small communities, and they're what drive economic growth in our state.
And we're working on increasing tax breaks for them as we're phasing out the income tax in the state of Mississippi. I mean, landmark legislation to do that. And maybe the legislature could even speed that process up a little bit.
They should speed it up. The other thing I will tell you, and I think you, and I know you will, but I think every voter in this state and every member of the press, they need to ask every single candidate for governor, regardless of what party they are, and every single candidate for lieutenant governor, will you commit to ensuring that the phase out of the income tax comes to fruition? And we give bonus points for those who are willing to do it faster than what this particular legislature sent me.
I think there's a way. I honestly do. I think there's a way. And, of course, as you indicated, the primary strategy to do that, to speed that up, is to create more taxpayers by growing our economy. The burden stays the same, actually goes down, but we generate more revenue.
Well, by the way, that is not just a theory. That is a fact of the matter of what has happened in Mississippi. We have eliminated our 3% individual income tax on the first $5,000 of income. We've eliminated our 4% individual income tax on the next $5,000 of individual income. We have reduced the top rate from 5% now down to 4% for everything for a married couple that earns above $36,000. So we've increased that deduction. And we started that process over 10 years ago, and this ain't going to make the liberals happy, but it's a fact. Guess what? We're collecting more in income taxes today than we collected 10 years ago.
And you championed that effort as lieutenant governor.
Because the economy is growing, and when the economy is growing and people have more money in their pockets and they're out spending that money, the government's going to get theirs.
Yeah.
Let individuals keep their money. It is not the government's money, and we need to make sure every candidate, and that's going to be my goal and my mission over the next year, is every person that's running for governor needs to take a position on the important issues of the day.
And we've seen that scenario play out as well, Governor, at the federal level. We cut taxes under the 2017 Tax Cuts Act under Donald Trump, and revenues to the Treasury increased.
That is exactly what happened. And then we got to a position with 4 years of the Biden administration, and they wanted to let that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expire. And fortunately, the Congress and President Trump were able to get that done and expanded, because the other side, the Democrats, are fine if they raise taxes on hardworking people across the state. Now, it's a new phenomenon, but now the Democrats are not only okay raising taxes on the hardworking people across America. Now they're okay to do it to spend money on illegal aliens. But that's a new phenomenon, but that's happened in the last 5 years in our country as well.
And several states looking at imposing a wealth tax, which is just horrendous to think about.
Well, and in California, again, you don't have to look at the theory. In California, they've proposed a wealth tax. It's going on the ballot. And as I understand it, of the people that would be eligible to have to pay that wealth tax, they had a combined net income of about $2.5 trillion, and over half of them, about $1.5 trillion of that net worth, has already moved out of California.
Unbelievable.
And so
incredible.
Those are jobs that are not going to be created in that state. Those are income that they're not going to collect. So not only are they going to lose the income on the additional tax, they're going to lose the 12 to 13% of income tax that California already had.
Yeah.
It's just really, really, really bad.
You spoke a little bit about health care in the state of Mississippi. What's your strategy? What's your message there?
Yeah, so we have worked very closely with Dr. Oz and Secretary Kennedy and President Trump and his entire administration. We've put together a rural health transformation plan in our state. We've worked very closely with the Department of Health, the Department of Mental Health, all of the agencies in state government that deal with those issues. We've started to see movement, believe it or not, in our health outcomes. We haven't seen the kind of movement we've seen in education, but I believe we can and we will by ensuring that we have conservative approach to investing in those facilities across the state, to investing in the things that we are doing to ensure that we increase accessibility across the state. And we've got 3 RFPs that are out as we speak. We've got providers from physicians to hospitals and everything in between that we hope will make applications, and we think we can make strategic investments, improve the overall access to care for our individuals, and hopefully be able to drive down cost as well.
And, Governor, as you know, the Medicaid program in Mississippi is number 2 expense in our general fund budget. When you combine our state spending on Medicaid with the provider taxes and the federal infusion, is about $8.5 billion, bigger than our general fund budget. Again, is not growing the economy, creating more opportunity, more jobs, more people on commercial insurance the way to address that?
I told a group literally yesterday, the best way to improve the finances of hospitals around our state is to improve their payer mix.
Totally agree.
And by improving their payer mix, what that means to everyone is you either have private insurance, you have the federal government as a payer through Medicare, or you have the state government through Medicaid. We need a higher percentage of those potential patients on private insurance. We need a lower percentage on state insurance through the Medicaid program, because the reimbursement rates are less from the government programs. And so it's that's why growing the economy is so important to small town and rural facilities across our state, is because I can take you not very far from here. When I was running for governor, I stopped at the facility that I drove by this morning in Forest, Mississippi. And they have a very strong economy in Scott County, particularly with Raytheon facility. And they will tell you their finances are in far better shape than a lot of other rural facilities because of their payer mix.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. You know that the hospitals around our state that are positioned in areas where most of the patients are paying with commercial reimbursement, they're doing well, and the ones that are heavily reimbursed by Medicare and Medicaid, they're struggling.
And oh, by the way, the large facilities in our state, we've got a lot of challenges at our smaller facilities, and we got to keep working to those. But if you look at the facilities like North Mississippi Medical Center, Forest General, Gulfport Memorial, UMMC, those large facilities, they see over 80% of all Medicaid patients. 80% of Medicaid dollars are actually being spent at the larger facilities, largely because the big spend in health care is not me or you that are relatively healthy going because we've got a sneeze or a cold. It's those really big cancerous things like that, but also the amount of spending that is for older people that are near death. We spend a huge percentage of our overall expenditures.
Many of whom are covered by Medicaid.
Many Medicaid or Medicare,
in both in many cases.
Yeah, it's usually one or the other or both.
Yeah,
and again, that's all government spending and government health care. And so we need more people working. We need people own private insurance, and that certainly helps their overall health, because people who are working tend to be more healthy than those who are choosing not to. But it also helps with a payer mix.
And I believe we got about a minute, but we'd have an expansion of new investment in the provision of health care if those providers could get reimbursed at higher rates through commercial.
No question.
So we just need more people working and covered by their employers or in the individual market and get off of Medicare.
But we also, as a state, need to be commended for refusing to expand Obamacare and Medicaid in our state, because I can tell you, I've talked to governors all over the country, and those states, some of whom did it via poor legislative decisions, some of whom did it at the ballot box. But those states, particularly red states that expanded Medicaid, hundreds of millions of dollars of expenditures.
Killing their budget.
Absolutely. Literally.
Governor Tate Reeves has been our guest here at Founder Square at the Neshoba County Fair. Always good talking to you, Governor.
Good to talk to you as well, Gerard. Thank you.
Yep. We're stepping aside, coming right back with Colin Owens, Director of Outreach for Build Mississippi.
Poly up a Mississippi.
Check it out. Let's do this. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from Founder Square at Mississippi's Giant House Party, the annual Neshoba County Fair. We're pleased to welcome now Colin Owens, the Director of Outreach for Build Mississippi. Colin, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right, so tell the folks what what Build Mississippi is, and then tell us what your role is there as the Outreach Director.
Yeah, so Build Mississippi, we do construction training. So all the CT centers over the state, we do a full apprenticeship with the Department of Labor. Also have Kickstart, which is a reconnect class for unemployed, underemployed, high school students who come there as well. Part of my role as Director of Outreach, I work with industry around the state so that they can continue to train their employees with our apprenticeship programs or short-term classes. And then also I just do a lot of speaking at high schools, community colleges, stuff like that.
So I just heard Governor Reeves, after we interviewed him, he came over and congratulated you and
That's
said
right.
you guys were doing a good work. He told me on the air you're busy. Is that right?
We are, yes, sir. So, speaking on the Reconnect, a couple years ago the governor came out and helped start a program with some funding to where we were able to pay students a stipend to take a class to learn a trade. So we've seen that just grow throughout the state. We've got a couple different training opportunities in Pearl and in Gulfport. It's done really well for us, so thankful for that.
And so you have locations scattered throughout the state?
So with the CT centers, yes.
Okay.
So think about all the different counties. I mean, Franklin County CT Center, Rankin County, stuff like that. Those are our programs, but our training centers are Pearl and then Gulfport.
The construction industry is not what it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, right? These jobs are certainly more an infusion of high tech into them, and these are super smart people that work these jobs.
Yes, sir, they are. And our goal is to let students know that there's opportunity.
Okay.
Even those students that think they may want to go to a 4-year college or 2-year college, well, there's still some that don't have a plan or a direction, so we are here to help them find that path.
And we've got lots of construction going on across the state because of our governor, our economic development folks, their stellar efforts to attract new industry into the state. So everything I see indicates that we need more people.
We do, definitely. And I think the awareness around the state, people are starting to see that more. We focus on not just people, but quality people.
Yeah.
So we want everybody to come and see if it's worth the shot to change your career.
Sure.
But yes, with the stuff that's going on in the state, there's ample opportunity.
And I think the other thing we should point out is it's not a dead-end career either, is it?
No, sir. And that's it. It's the career.
It's a career, right.
It's not just going
to work.
a
job that you work permanently.
That's right.
Some people may choose to do that. Sure. That's fine. But there are opportunities to move up.
Yep. And if we can start them on the right path, getting a little bit of certification credentials, teaching them the the basics of construction, and they can take off with it. So,
and certainly the employers really appreciate that, because otherwise they would be tasked with that burden, right? And that costs money.
It does, yes, sir. But having somebody come in that already knows how to read a tape measure, or say, hey, go get me a crescent wrench, they already know what those things are. That's what we're trying to do, is train those students to know a little bit before they show up on the job site.
The idea is to hit the ground running and be productive day one.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I know that we've been with you guys down at the trademark.
The skills,
right?
Yes, sir.
It's unbelievable. It's incredible watching those young people and the things they can do across all the trades, all the construction disciplines. Super impressive, and they're so passionate about it. I mean, they love it. That's what you want.
No doubt. It's giving that student an opportunity that knows they may not have a 4-year college in their future, but giving them something tangible to do, and seeing the finished product is always neat, especially at the high school level.
Yeah. And keep them right here as well, right?
No doubt, yes, sir.
Yeah, and when I see employers down there, and they're scoping out individuals for possible employment right there on the trade show floor.
Last year, I think we had almost 12 students get jobs on the spot. Yeah,
that is awesome. So, Colin, do other states have similar organizations?
I'm going to be a little biased here. Nobody does it like us.
I believe it. I've seen the results. It's very positive, and the governor's certainly taking note of it as well.
No doubt, yes.
Yeah, and I visited with employers right here on the show that have talked about how valuable it is to them. And these are just good people. And you see the schools bring the buses in with all these students as well for the skills competition. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's there again. We see the ones that do the competition, but the ones that haven't been in those classes yet, it's also piquing their interest.
Okay. Yeah, so they come and they say, yeah, it looks like something I might want to do.
That's right.
Yeah. Man, it's desperately needed. It's not going to slow down. That's a good thing. I think we have a very pro-business climate here in Mississippi, and really in most parts of the country, through federal policy, good state policy here. We need these folks, so appreciate it. Build Mississippi. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Colin Owens, Director of Outreach for Build Mississippi, also one of our sponsors here of our broadcast from the Neshoba County Fair. Appreciate you coming on, Colin.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
We're stepping aside for a break. It is the top of the hour. That means Fox News and SuperTalk News is coming your way. And on the other side, it's Willie Simmons. He's the Central District Transportation Commissioner, also the chair of the commission. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays, where the Element Wealth Studio has been moved over temporarily to the Neshoba County Fair. We're at Founder Square on this
Friday Eve.
It's our great pleasure to welcome now the Central District Transportation Commissioner, Commissioner Willie Simmons. Commissioner, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
It's right, always pleasure to be here with you, and always enjoy you, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So I know you delivered some remarks on the stage here in front of us at the pavilion on Founder Square. What's the message today, Commissioner?
Well, it gave us an opportunity to speak to the public and to say thanks to the legislators, the governor, lieutenant governor, and the speaker for what they have done over the past 3 years, and also our fellow congressional delegation.
Yeah.
Because each have stepped up to the plate, and we have stopped kicking the can down the road. The legislature is giving us finally some recurring money. With the fuel tax increase, it's going to go 9 cents up to 27 cents. And that's going to generate about $180 million for us. But also working with Senator Wicker and Senator Sinai Smith and Congressman Thompson and Guest and all of them, we have got money from the fellow and over $1 billion. And with that, we have been able to do capacity projects and start to truly maintain our highways.
And it's important. So not only does it improve just the quality of travel for Mississippians and those who pass through our state, but it's a key ingredient, a key component of our economic development efforts as well.
That's central. If you think about it, you can't have a community without transportation infrastructure. You can't have a hospital, school, jobs, business community, industry. None of that happens without having a good quality and efficient transportation system that get cargo and citizens to and from where they need to go.
Yeah. Now, in the state of Mississippi, of course, we have 3 districts, each of which, a north, a central, a south, each of which is represented by an elected transportation commissioner. And you were telling me before we went live that you guys actually get along pretty well and work very collaboratively.
We could be a model for the country. As a matter of fact, if all of the government entities will take a look at Mississippi, Department of Transportation Commission, and think about the way we work and how we work, because we really take a look at our infrastructure system and we see it as a nonpartisan operation, something that the people need, the public, something that the public is paying for.
Yeah.
But when we decide on a highway, we don't consider whether it's in a Republican community or a Democratic community or a black community or white community. We say that road needs to be put in place so that the community, the business community, the citizen can operate properly.
Yeah.
And we work toward it. And then to prove it even more better, when you look at the fact that there are 3 commissioners elected in the state of Mississippi, one from the Northern District, Commissioner Caldwell, Commissioner Busby from the Southern District, and myself in the Central. Both of them are Republican. They're white males. And guess who was the chairperson? Willie Simmons.
You, sir.
Willie Simmons, the Democrat, black from the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah.
And they allow me to serve as chairperson, working very closely with our outstanding executive director, Brad White.
Yeah.
And the 2,700 employees we have. We have a great family. So other entities of government should take a look at what we do with the Department of Transportation Commissioner and figure out how to spend billions of dollars together and not fight over partisan politics.
So you referenced the fuel tax increase that had been in place since the 80s, right? I believe the old fuel tax rate.
1987.
87, okay. And that is increasing by 3 cents a year over 3 years. Is that right?
Yes, that's something we want to thank the legislature for. Speaker White and Lieutenant Governor Holzman and the governor's support. The legislature passed House Bill 1, and they put in House Bill 1 an increase in fuel tax, because we had been always saying you need to give us recurring money so that we can adequately plan. And when we can plan, it also helped the private sector, because the road builders and engineers and others who have to work to do projects, they know that Mississippi is moving forward and doing projects. Now they can keep their companies up and ready to build those projects when we roll them out. So that 3 cents was put in place over a 3-year period, 3 cents each year, and it will go to 27 cents. And again, the Department of Transportation will generate about $180 million.
So we're a year into that. Have you seen a difference that's making in available revenue to dedicate to roads and bridges in the state?
Well, the first year, the money actually went to state aid. It didn't come to the Department of Transportation.
I got you.
So state aid,
I wasn't aware of that.
State aid has been receiving the first year, and beginning July, the money will all start coming to us.
Okay, gotcha. So July 1, just right around the corner here, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then and so that's. So you said the first year, so it will increase to 6 cents, right, July 1, and all 6 cents collected will go to the Department of Transportation. Yeah.
The bulk of the 6 cents will go.
Okay.
But state aid will continue to get some money, but they will only get their share of it.
I see.
That share was dedicated to the Department of Transportation will now start coming.
That makes
sense. That's the $180.
I got you.
Yes.
And even with that, our fuel tax, our excise tax, which is on the quantity, that's why it's called an excise tax, it still puts us in the lower tier within the 50 states, right?
When you look at the other 50 states, even those states surrounding us, it puts us at or below where they are.
Okay.
And the fact that we have had the same funding since 1987 that went into effect in 89, we have not seen an increase in all those years. We have seen an increase in costs due to inflation and other costs that comes with it. And it's just not workable without us having an increase in funding that's recurring. So we get that, and then the legislature this year did something great for us in that they removed the repealer. There was a repealer on the lottery tax.
Right, exactly.
And it was going to sunset.
It's not a tax, though. Don't call it tax.
Or a fee. There was a fee on the lottery fee, and it was going to sunset.
That's
in
right.
28.
And go to the general fund.
And go to the general fund.
Yeah.
Well, the legislature this past session removed that repealer, and now that money is committed to coming to the Department of Transportation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I noted that as well. That's the first $80 million generated by the lottery. They call it net proceeds. In accordance with the original Alice G. Clark Lottery Act. That's right, goes to the State Highway Fund. But at 2028, the sunset on that, it would have gone to the general fund. And then we'd be sending it to the legislators to go spend however they saw fit. I'm glad it's staying with the State Highway Fund.
I'm glad it's staying with the State, because what it does, we the commissioners, we decided when we started getting that $80 million that we were going to commit to paving our highways, 2-lane highways that have not been paved in over 20 years.
Yeah.
So now when you're driving,
I've seen it.
Whether you're on 25, 16, 15, you are seeing paved highways that are being taken care of. And if you don't provide maintenance on those highways, they go into destroy, and then you have to rebuild them all together.
Okay.
So thanks to the $80 million, the legislature's given us that, and that's making a big, big difference on our highways.
Well, that's good to hear. So the total budget still sits at what, about $1.56 billion when you count the federal money coming in? I think something like that.
That's the other thing we're proud of this year. We have the largest budget in the history of the Department of Transportation. We have in excess of $2 billion this year.
Okay.
Because of the increase in money that we receive in addition to the capacity money. So when we get all of that money and put it together, our budget will exceed $2 billion.
Okay. $2 billion.
Yes.
Yeah. And, of course, the major component of that is federal money, right?
49%.
49%. Okay. So it's a little less than half now.
About 51% come from the state through the fuel tax and other measures that we collect monies.
Okay.
Lottery and all that. Yes.
So have you ever looked at how we stack up against the other states and when you look at our population? I know it's not always apples to oranges. It's more expensive in some states, like Louisiana, for example, really expensive to build roads there because they're on water all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's expensive in Louisiana and expensive everywhere you go. But I would say when you ride our highways and you look at the Mississippi highways, although we have been kicking the can down the road, our highways is in pretty good shape compared to our surrounding states.
Yeah.
So I would say that we, the commission, that elected commission that you have, along with the leadership and our CEO, Brad White, we have figured out how to be transparent and how to be responsible and accountable to the taxpayers and making sure that we do the right thing. So we do a 3-year plan that we give to the legislature. If we do that 3-year plan, the legislature then take a look at that, and they are reacting to what we are saying in the 3-year plan. We are reacting to Vision 21 that was put in place by the legislature. So it creates for a good working relationship, and when they fund projects or put us monies into the system, they kind of know where those projects are going, like Highway 7.
Makes sense.
Highway Interstate 55 in the Northern District, and here in the Central District. This year, we really wanted to do Interstate 55 widening in Madison County, as well as Highway 825 in Rankin County.
Yeah.
We're taking the $150 million that they gave us and then moving some money around, and we're going to let both of those projects this year.
Okay. Well, I certainly, as a motorist, I've seen improvement. We appreciate that. So, Commissioner Willie Simmons, the Transportation Commissioner for Mississippi Central District, has been our guest on Middays. Appreciate it, Mr.
Thank
Commissioner.
you, Gerard.
Thank you, buddy.
See you again.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
We're stepping aside for a break here at Founders Square at the Neshoba County Fair. On the other side, it's the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tyndall. You don't want to miss that one. Stay with us.
Earthwalk shoes.
Bring it on. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Neshoba County Fair. We're at Founders Square, as always. SuperTalk Mississippi. Coverage yesterday and today. And it's our pleasure to welcome now the Commissioner of Mississippi's Department of Public Safety, Sean Tindall. Commissioner, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here on this beautiful day at the Neshoba County Fair.
A little better. No rain today. No rain in the forecast last I checked. The governor, we just had him on. He said the speech he delivered today was his 28th at the Neshoba County Fair, but he doesn't have the record. He said former Ag Commissioner Jim Buck Ross holds that distinction.
I don't even know where you looked that stat up, but if anybody was going to find it, Governor Reeves would have been the guy to find that stat.
28. That's a lot, man. That's a lifetime of speaking for sure. So, appreciate you coming on. The fair, always something special, uniquely Mississippi. I know you've been several times in the past, but this year moved the schedule around a little bit due to the change in the school schedule here. But always an incredible Mississippi experience, never disappoints.
It absolutely is, and I'm from the coast, so I always kind of heard about it, but never had been until about 2015. And I've probably been about 80% of the time since then. I mean, it is such a neat experience. And of course, there's a coast night up here on Wednesday night. Happened last night, and they do fried oysters and shrimp.
It was awesome.
Great. And now all the coast people are hearing about it. They're like, we want to do something like this at home. I'm like, I don't think you can recreate it.
That's exactly right. Really cool stuff. Okay, so no secret, your name, your agency has certainly been in the news, been a subject of debate quite a bit over the last week, and wanted to have you on and come on and break down this process that got to where we are today. And it concerns the Department of Public Safety's procurement of AI-powered cameras, mobile cameras, that were to be placed across the state at various high-risk, highly congested intersections. But, man, this thing really took a life of its own. Please break it down for us.
Well, I remember, I think it was back in 2023, Colonel Ginn was our colonel and asked me to sit down and meet with a retired colonel from North Carolina. He was working with a company that had some programs where they would help analyze traffic data and assist officers out in the field, and we would get information back so that we could better allocate our resources to areas that we're seeing wrecks and other problems. So we sat down and had that meetings. But, of course, if you think back to 2023, nobody was talking about artificial intelligence or AI. So that was not part of the conversation at that time, and it was just about trying to capture driving habits of drivers and trying to make sure we put our resources where we need them. Well, fast forward, and then last week we see an article in the Magnolia Tribune, and I think it was an accurate depiction of what happened at the ITS board meeting as far as kind of what they had talked about and where it had gone through. But that was the first time I'd heard about this in 3 years. So followed up with the colonel and said, "Hey, what's going on with this program? I don't know what it's about, and I don't recall talking about it." And we kind of went back, and your memory gets refreshed. And I was like, "Okay, I remember meeting with those guys." And I said, "Well, tell me where we are in the process." Well, we just went to ITS, and I said, "Well, have I seen a contract? Because I see thousands of contracts at DPS every year." And they said, "No, sir, it has not made it to your desk, hasn't been to your contract review committee. It's still a long way from that point." So I said, "Well, let me get with the governor's office," and had a conversation with them and came back, and we collectively said that's no go. We're not going that direction, and we don't want to, as it was presented, utilize that technology at this time. So that stopped it.
So typically, whenever an agency has a major procurement that comes before the ITS board, that's Information Technology Services, by the way, and I've explained this on the show, it bears explaining again, that's the agency in the state of Mississippi that's responsible for procurement of technology, certain categories of technology products and services, and also it administers the procurement process through RFPs, what they call letters of configurations. They have some what they call express products list. I have a little experience with that in my industry. Right. And so it's being reported, though, that there was someone from DPS at the board meeting where this project came before them, and they testified, or they advised, informed the board that these systems would in fact be used to detect traffic violations and then downstream issue tickets. Talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think the intent was ever for the software to actually issue tickets.
Okay.
I think in the way I interpreted it was the information gathered would be streamed to the officer down the road, and then the officer at that point could determine whether or not she needed to make a stop to issue a citation based upon what they saw at that time. So it was feeding them information in real time what might be happening ahead, and then feeding it downstream.
Okay.
Regardless, what I wanted to be clear of is the purpose of this was not to have a camera that was going to witness a violation and then just automatically issue a citation.
Okay.
We have fought against that on multiple capacity since I've been commissioner, and so I wanted to make it clear that that's not what it was going to do. And then again, it was also said in that particular meeting that it was going to be used for all vehicles, but the actual procurement documents clearly say that it was just for commercial trucks. So, I think sometimes when you go to these board meetings, things get said. They might not be accurate as to what exactly was in there. I don't know if there's any ill intent with that, and people just make mistakes. And so, in any event, once we started looking at it, it had expanded beyond what we had originally talked about. That is but a phase in the process. ITS does not sign our contracts. It is a procurement board. It's there, to make sure the procurement process is working right, and also to make sure that all our technology is interfacing with other technology throughout the state. So it does not take over the ability of the contracts, issuance and signage of those contracts by the agency. It's a step in the process. And so just wanted to clear that up and make sure that, people know, that's something we talked about 3 years ago. I hadn't talked about it since, and then, it had not even made it to my desk or even through our contract review committee for final analysis.
Well, I can certainly attest to the fact that as a vendor, ITS administers the procurement process, but they do not execute contracts on behalf of agencies or any other public sector entities that utilize ITS for procurement.
That's right.
That's between the agency and the vendor.
That's right. And look, they're involved in, everything today has an internet, technology systems interface.
Sure.
Just about that we deal with, unless we're talking about guns. And even guns now are starting to have different technology in them. So, there's just a lot of different things that go through ITS for an agency. So they're very busy, and that's why it takes a while to get things through there. Because they're dealing with so much these days.
Yeah.
I do want to clarify, too, and something that people seem to get confused about is they talk about the LPR readers, they talk about this. We do have LPR readers in Mississippi. And
license plate readers, by the way. That's what that stands for. Yeah.
And if people want to have a debate about whether or not we need those or don't need them, that debate is, certainly available to be had. But I will say, from a law enforcement perspective, and one of stopping crime, one of identifying criminals, it is highly used. When we hear about kids that have been abducted, the ones that, were abducted out of New Orleans, ultimately murdered, we're able to figure out where they were going based on LPR readers. When we have active shooters, those are usually lit up. But I do think it's reasonable to have a conversation, put up the guardrails. What are the purposes they can be used for, under what situations, who can have access, and a penalty if it's used improperly, because we've had individuals come before in my short time on the Board of Law Enforcement Officer Standards and Training that have accessed that information for things that they shouldn't have been doing it for. And so I definitely think we need to take a look at that and consider it and put up those guardrails to make sure that if people are using it for nefarious reasons, that they're held accountable, and make sure it's used for the purposes of the general public safety, not to surveil people and what they're doing in their daily lives.
Okay. Well, appreciate that clarification. So one of the things that I found, and I think I got this right, Commissioner, when I researched a law that was passed in, I believe, 2009 in Mississippi, that prohibits municipalities and counties, essentially local governments, local jurisdictions, from using, I think, automated technology or automated systems or something like that, the language in the law, from issuing traffic citations. But it excluded state-level law enforcement. Yeah. I mean, do you have any understanding of why that was the case? That's a long time ago, I know.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And the only reason I can think is twofold, really. One, you got the Highway Patrol and CTED that kind of does the traffic enforcement.
Yeah.
Other than that, most of your state law enforcement is more investigative types, and they're not going to be utilizing that type of services. But number two, I'm sure the legislature felt confident, as did the executive branch, that as the state law enforcement agency, we're not going to step off doing something they don't want us to do, and if we did, it would get in with a quick demise, like I think it's been proven to happen in the last week.
Okay, so as it stands right now, you don't intend to move forward with this particular contract, this purchase?
I can tell you that is not happening. That is done. I've told my folks. I told them last week this isn't going anywhere. So just don't worry about it.
All right. Well, do you think maybe we need some reforms in our existing laws, like the law that bans certain uses of cell phones, of mobile phones, while driving? It seems like there's some holes in that.
Yeah, and enforcement's an issue with that because it's hard to enforce because it's hard to see in people's vehicles. So, I think that's just one of those things we got to deal with, and you got to look at the way people are driving. A lot of times you can tell if they're using their cell phone when they're driving just by the way they're driving. Now, I will say that, again, I do think it is a prime time to bring forth legislation. Let's talk about the guardrails for cameras and LPR readers and making sure that they're being used appropriately.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on and clarifying all that for us. So that's the main message, I think, to the state of Mississippi today is that all of this buzz about these AI-powered cameras that were going to be implemented by the Department of Public Safety, that contract will not move forward.
Will not move forward.
Appreciate it. Commissioner Sean Tyndall with the Department of Public Safety has been our guest. We're coming right back. We've got half an hour of middays remaining from Founder Square. Stay with us.
From the Seabrook.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
A steady dose of patriotic music there from Rhino back in the SuperTalk headquarters studios. We are, of course, positioned on Founder Square. We are just a few steps away from the pavilion as we wrap up today's show. It's been a busy one for sure. We've had a great guest lineup. Thanks to our content director, Alex Payton, for not only scheduling the guests, but scurrying around with them to get them here on time. But we have to acknowledge it's a bit tough when they come straight from the stage over to our set here. But it's very timely because they just got through speaking, and we can talk to them about what you say today. So, and then, of course, at 1:30 today, it's the house band. We will be in action again at the pavilion. I can see I'm going to call them my roadies for right now, getting my drums all moved into position, but we're looking forward to that. So we had a couple of folks yesterday speak that are running for United States Senate to represent the great state of Mississippi in the upper chamber in Washington. One of those, of course, Ty Pinkins as an independent, and then Scott Colomb. He is the Democratic candidate. And they each delivered 10-minute speeches. That's what's allowed here at the pavilion. There's actually a little clock right in front of the speakers. The audience can't see it. It counts down so that they can make sure they stay within their 10-minute time period. And whoever's serving as MC, I noticed that they start moving into position a little bit to race them up. It doesn't always work, though. It turns out that our SuperTalk folks here say, yeah, it doesn't always work, and they're shaking their head. But, it's interesting in that they tended to distance themselves a bit from the modern Democratic Party. That's because it's freaking crazy. That's why. And when you look at these primaries across the country and the candidates on the Democratic side that have prevailed, they're just not just Democrats that are maybe arguing about how high taxes could be. They're just into some crazy stuff. And that seems to be playing out across the country. So, for example, one of those is Abelia Chevalier. I don't know if I said that right or not. I've heard different pronunciations. Chevalier, I've heard that as well. Is founder of CUAD, and this is an organization who has as their stated goal, you ready for this? Eradication of Western civilization. So we have someone who potentially could be seated, sworn in, to the United States House of Representatives who seeks to end our civilization. Well, that's just insanity. I don't even know how else to describe something so crazy. She says that she is fighting for, we are Westerners fighting for, the total eradication of Western civilization. We stand in full solidarity. Why do I always get nervous, Rhino, whenever that term is used in a statement? Solidarity. It sounds communist to me for some reason.
Because it's never actually said by anybody of any actual intelligence. So you know the second it comes out of their mouth or the second they write it down that you're about to read the stupidest thing you've ever heard.
She goes on to say, we stand in full solidarity with every movement for liberation in the global South. Our intifada is an international one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people. We reject every genocidal, eugenicist regime that seeks to undermine the personhood of the colonized. What in the heck does that even mean? Kamala Harris would be proud at that word salad. She says, as the fascism ingrained in the American conscience becomes ever more explicit and irrefutable, we seek community and instruction from militants in the global South who have been on the front lines in the fight against tyranny and domination which undergird the imperialist world order. I don't know what the heck all that means either.
I told you you'd hear the stupidest thing you've ever heard in your life.
Unbelievable. And so there was an individual who ran for state senate in the Empire State of New York, also endorsed by the Democrat Socialist mayor of New York City, Zoran Mamdani. This individual's name is Aber Kawas. Thinks that 9/11 was America's fault because of white supremacy and endorses Hamas, which of course is an Islamic terrorist organization who killed Americans. That's who New Yorkers just voted for to represent them in this particular state Senate district in the general election. I'm telling you, it's crazy stuff. So I guess we should say we're not surprised that the Scott Colomb, the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate here in Mississippi, and also Ty Pinkins, the the independent candidate for U.S. Senate.
Might as well be Democrat.
Exactly. They both kind of distanced themselves from this nutty stuff. And, in fact, yesterday, Colomb said, corruption isn't just out in California and New York. It's in the very seat I'm running for. I mean, he's kind of made the central theme of his campaign really just smearing Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. And some of the stuff he comes up with, I don't even exactly know what he's talking about. He says
he doesn't come up with it. He's not that bright.
Okay. She puts her donors and the folks in Washington first. This is what Scott Colomb said yesterday. And she puts all of us dead last. And we feel it at the grocery store, at the park, on our electric bill. What is he talking about? The cost of everything has gone up and up. And the senator who's supposed to be fighting for us is nowhere to be found. What did he say, I wonder, Rhino, during the 2021 year of Joe Biden's presidency when inflation spiked to 9%? Overall, 17% increase in inflation from the time he took office to the time he left office. So finally we're getting some sane policies that are starting to reduce inflation. I admit we still got work to do there. We saw the PCE report today. It was certainly less than stellar, but man, it's a lot better than what we had. And then, of course, we had an ideologue running the Fed in Jerome Powell. President Trump has called him out numerous times, who, as you've mentioned many times, Rhino, reduced the benchmark interest rate just before midterms to try to boost the Democrats' chances in the midterms. And that actually was like pouring fire or fuel on the fire of inflation. It exacerbated it quite a bit. Pinkins, of course, he kind of made his living in his speech yesterday, highlighting the two-party system that he described as broken and harmful to Mississippians. Quote, for nearly 50 years, both political parties have had chances to shape the country under a united government, If both parties had a chance to fix it, both parties share the responsibility for breaking it. And at some point, we have to say enough. I think the problem is you may recall from yesterday when I asked him some specific policy questions. I didn't really feel like that he answered those with in a direct fashion. Didn't really want to address the issue of Social Security, which I've said many times is an incredibly relevant and fair question to anyone running for U.S. Senate in 2026 because they're going to be seated, assuming that they stay the entire 6 years to which they are elected. They're going to be seated in 2032 in the United States Senate. Social Security is on track to run out of money, not totally, but not be able to fully pay its benefits. You need to have an answer of how you intend to address this issue with people who are receiving those checks on a monthly basis now and folks that will be between now and then and thereafter. You need an answer other than, well, we just got to work together. No, you're skirting the issue because you don't want to make the hard decisions. And that unfortunately, is something that's not unique to Mr. Pinkins, who's running for U.S. Senate. That's something that all candidates of all stripes and all parties for U.S. Senate should be talking about. So it's going to be an interesting few months leading up to the general election for sure. Another piece of news to pass on. Yesterday, apparently it's being reported that the president got into a shouting match with Senator Bill Cassidy over Iran in a closed-door meeting, and this all had to do with the president's ability as the commander-in-chief to order actions in Iran versus necessitating involvement of the United States Congress. So apparently they got into a bit of a shouting match. The senators that were present described the president as, quote, mad as a murder hornet, raised his voice at the Louisiana Republican, and of course is on his way out, having been defeated in the recent primary in Louisiana. All right, folks, we are up against a break right now. I'm going to go ahead and exit the set for Sid Salter. He's taking over for the final segment. Appreciate that, so I can get to the stage and get ready to play music with the house band at the Neshoba County Fair. Stay safe and God bless. I'll be with you tomorrow.
I'm Rex Beck. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
awesome. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror, looking at the promise of the promised land.
All right, welcome back to the Neshoba County Fairgrounds final segment. Middays with Gerard Gibert. Gerard is headed down to the grandstand to crank up a session with a house band.
Founder Square.
I'm Sid Salter, and I'm here to get this segment wrapped up and to say goodbye to SuperTalk listeners from a very successful week here at the Neshoba County Fair. We've been doing this since 1889. These cabins around the square have been here through world wars, through the Depression, through all sorts of challenges. We had some challenges this week. We had a lot of rain, and we had sort of the hangover of changing the dates of the fair for one of the few times in the history of the institution, and the fact that all of this, despite the weather, despite the format change, we had another successful fair, and I credit that to the president of the Neshoba County Fair Association Board of Directors, Representative Scott Bounds, and all of the people who work with him on the Fair Association Board. It's a tremendous job. If you if you're a guest here, you really can't appreciate the scope of work that they do and the amount of time they put into it over a year's time. And while we're at Thursday of wrapping up this 10-day session of the fair, I guarantee you our fair board is already working on next year and next year and next year's fair. And so, Scott, welcome. Thank you for taking time to visit with the SuperTalk listeners. And so your assessment of the fair a month earlier and the fair despite a lot of inclement weather.
Okay. Well, in response to your first question to the date change has been positive. I've had when we first announced it initially, Sid, late last summer after the fair. No, it was mid-year. Anyway, we had some comments and, just tradition and not going to work but this, changing the date was not a decision that we just said, woke up one day and said, you know what, let's change the dates of the fair. We've been watching financial trends as far as the fair. When I say financial trends, the attendance at the fair had been steady and consistent and level, and in some years up. What was happening was that a lot of early school starts around the state were starting back on Monday after the fair, and you had families leaving on Sunday or Saturday night, and then it was impacting obviously our food vendors, our carnival, and just those other people who rely on that type of income to come in. So we made that decision. It's been positive. Sid, I've told people, look, here we are. We're 2 days from the 2026 Neshoba County Fair ending. It's in the middle of June. It's been a successful run, and when you look around, most people don't even know if it's June or July. It's still the fair.
Amen.
Amen. And so that's what we're focusing on now. I will say that we've had an unprecedented amount of rainfall since Monday was a week ago down here, June the 15th, I believe, when it started. I think a little under 12 inches of rain in the last 10, 12 days. So obviously we have we've had to adapt by the hour to make things work. But we've had fantastic 2 nights of entertainment, and going to close out the fair real strong.
Well, good to hear, and again, thanks for that goes to you and your colleagues on the Fair Association Board of Directors. The thing that I think maybe some people miss about this institution, it's an abandoned place for much of the year, and then it comes alive, and there's 10,000 to 20,000 to 30,000 people here, and you've got all the problems any other city has. You've got security and safety, you've got water and sewer, you've got power, you've got garbage, you've got all these things to take care of, and it is no small undertaking, and you guys do a marvelous job. We've got about a minute left in the segment. Anything you'd like to share with the audience as we...
Well, we as the Fair Association and the board, we're 137 years. We hope we're around in another 137 years, but we owe all of that to the patrons and all who continue to come out and support the fair. That's how we operate, and we just can't say enough. We value the partnerships that we have with our sponsors. We value the patrons who continue to support us by coming and attending the fair and investing in their cabins, and we just thank them.
Thanks to all of you from the heart of Mississippi's giant house party, the Neshoba County Fair and SuperTalk Mississippi.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.